What up, what up, what up, what up, internet? How y'all doing? Where you be, who you are, what you do, what you see. My name is Mark F. Jones, and to my left I got...
My name is Niels R.Y., a.k.a. the Black Hugh Downs, and this is 2020.
Ooh, I like it, I like it. You practicing that?
I was!
It sounded too clean.
I didn't even want to tell you how long I was practicing.
It sounded really clean, but hey, man, this is, well, you might be tuning in thinking like, hey, where's Pop Culture Parenting? Mm-hmm. Where is it? I don't see it. There's this new hip show sweeping the nation. Hey, Nels, why don't you tell people about what's going on with our new branding change?
Yes, so welcome to PCP 2.0. We have evolved our amazing podcast to its next iteration. So instead of Pop Culture Parenting, we are now calling ourselves Pop Cult Parent. It matches every way that you can find us, through Gmail, through social media, through everything, including email. Oh, I just said Gmail. So including everything, Pop Cult Parent. POPCULTPARENT. If you want to find us, it's Pop Cult Parent. Everything has changed to now Pop Cult Parent. So those are one of the many changes that we are taking in our next iteration of our podcast.
Yeah, we made the change because we felt it was just easier on the tongue. Mm-hmm. It had that Spanish R off the tongue. It just rolled better. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
That was horrible.
I don't know why.
That was terrible.
But so yeah, we just felt like it just sounded better. It was a little bit easier to say. It's easier to put on t-shirts, stuff like that. So that's why we did it. So we straight up KFC'd ourselves. We are no longer Kentucky Fried Chicken. We are KFC.
Yeah.
So
Pop Cult Parent.
Let us know what you think. If you don't like it,
we don't care.
Too bad.
But it still has the essence of our show, which is about, talking about pop culture, the pop culture that shaped us, molded us, and of course, how it influences us as parents and how it influences our amazing kids.
There we go.
So there's two other announcements to our show. Number one, from did you know? So we're excited to announce that our amazing guest, Shannon, will now be a regular participant in Pop Culture Parenting. He has been upgraded to now being to being one of the regular hosts of the show.
Yay.
So you'll as you see myself and Mark, you will also see Shannon. Sometimes it'll be all three of us, sometimes it'll just be two of us here and there, but Shannon will now be a regular host in Pop Culture Parenting. Let's give him a round of applause. Yeah. Yay.
I'm not threatened at all. Congratulations, Shannon.
We're excited to have him.
Good job.
Clearly you all liked him. You all demanded more Shannon, so you got him. We'll definitely also have some future episodes with our wives as well, as that was something that you all wanted. Last but not least, this is a huge change, but we are changing the format of our show. So instead of having once a month episodes, we are now going to have 2 episodes a month. One episode will be like our typical episodes, and then the other episode we have a month will be a little bit special.
Yeah.
As we grow into the year, you will get to notice how the new format is. But one thing that you all demanded was more Pop Culture Parenting, so you are going to get it. We are going to have more Pop Culture Parent.
We're slaves to the masses, so take it.
So yes, you will see 2 episodes a month. All right.
Cool.
Those are the new brand new things going into 2020.
All right, Nels, do you want to let our listeners know what we're going to be talking about today?
Yes. So today's a very special episode. We each, Mark and I, have made a list of our 20 top movies from the past 2010s. So from 2010 all the way to 2019, we are listing in ranking order our top 20 movies. We each, and we'll go when we share our list, like the rationale behind what we did in making our list. But what we're going to do is Mark's going to share his list, and then I'm going to share my list, and then we're going to have a conversation about the 2 lists and why we put stuff where, what's missing, and just talk a little bit more about the dopeness that some of these movies were. The specific things to look at in regards to our show is all these movies came out between 2010 to 2019. Mark and I both have a list of 20, and we will be going from 20 all the way to number 1 in ranking order of the top movies for the year. Also, at the end, after we do our list, clearly, in 10 years, there's going to be movies that we want to talk about. So we're going to have an honorable mention section. Cool?
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, now, so to start.
And by the way, y'all, I'm going to try my best not to interrupt Mark. As he says his list, I'm just going to type down okay. I'm ready, brother.
So I literally finished this list seconds ago, y'all. I was working on this list so long, and it just broke my heart to just kick some things off. I'll give a little backstory about how I went about my list, and how you went about yours. So I try to think, not only what made a staple in the decade, the movie that came out this decade, because that really wasn't getting me anywhere. And so when I looked back at everything I saw, I was like, man, what affected me this past decade? What movie did I watch? And when I left it, it left me with something. It left me with questions. It left me with an outlook on life. It left me with, enthusiasm to go get what I want. That's what. So my list is what really affected me, and what did I also like. So there's some things on here I think you're going to question. There's some things on here I think you'll like, but we'll see. I cheated. There's some places where I was like, I can't help it. I cheated. There's kind of more than one movie there, but
I also cheated.
Okay, good. Then I don't feel so bad. So
right.
let me just run through my list.
Okay.
And I'll just say real quick, one of my big cheats. I have a number 21, and I'm gonna just
Mark.
Hear me out. I have a number 21. And the only reason I added it is because this was such a big moment, I think, in everyone's life who saw this movie, is Fast and Furious 7. Because no one thought they were going to cry at a Fast and Furious movie. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I think that deserves...
Wiz Khalifa.
Cue to Wiz Khalifa and piano, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right.
But let me run through my list. All right. So at number 20, I got Whiplash. At number 19, I got Mission Impossible Fallout. 18, How to Train Your Dragon. At 17, I got Minding the Gap. It's a documentary about skateboarding. 16, I have The Avengers 1, 3, and 4. I have Avengers 1, Infinity War, and Endgame. I rank Infinity War among the first. And if you want to get into it, I'll explain that. All right, number 15, I have a tie between It Follows and VHS 2.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. No. I'm not interrupting you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We can get into that later.
Go ahead, please.
Number 14, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2.
Okay.
Number 13, I have Life of Pi. Number 12, I have Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Number 11, I have Attack the Block. Number 10, I have the whole John Wick series. I couldn't choose one, so just all the John Wicks. Number 9, I have The Social Network. Number 8, I have Arrival. Number 7, I have Black Panther. Number 6, it was a tie, Dunkirk and Inception, but Inception comes first. Number 5 is Fury Road. Number 4 is Get Out. Number 3 is The Force Awakens, and I'm just gonna put an asterisk there. I do think Last Jedi is a better film, but Force Awakens made my list. Number 2 is Into the Spider-Verse, and number 1 is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting list.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know if you want to go through yours and then we go back and forth, or...
Let's go through yours real quick. Let's go through yours real quick. Just because, I'm upset at myself for not including, not even in my honorable mentions, one of my favorite movies, which is VHS
2. So a little background. VHS is this horror series It's like it's not really an anthology. It's kind of an anthology horror series. Basically, it's this horror movie. The first one is these guys go into a haunted house and they're looking for a VHS.
Yeah.
And they start watching old VHSs while they're in this house, and you watch those stories. So it's like a Twilight Zone type thing. And I remember I watched this, and I told you and a good friend of ours, I was like, "Yo, y'all need to watch this with me." Because we love, what I say we love is good horror, like real horror, like not just gore.
We love horror movies with stories, with dope stories in it. Yeah,
and like things are like, oh my god.
Yes. if we're not trying to run away from the TV at one point, it's not a good horror movie.
So we watched VHS 1. We loved it. Years later, I tell y'all that's a VHS 2,
and we make a night of it.
And we made a night of it. And there was one story in VHS 2 that was our absolute favorite. It's directed by the dude who directed The Raid.
Yeah.
It is like the most like get me the hell out of here, amazing chaos you've ever seen in your life. I recommend go watch VHS 2. I forget what that story was called.
I forget as well. But if you've seen Raid, you know exactly what story we're talking about.
If you want to skip to what we're talking about, it's the story Safe Haven of the VHS 2 series. Man, if you like chaos and intense and just like what the hell is happening, you need to pause this podcast right now and go watch Safe Haven on VHS 2. I think the VHS movies are on Netflix.
They should be. That's how we saw them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still there, but so.
I gotta say, like, in all of this, because clearly I'm gonna have some Netflix stuff there too. Netflix horror movies. I mean, they probably came out in theater, or they probably came out in some way, shape, or form, but we saw them through Netflix. I mean, it's beautiful. You're gonna, just give y'all a heads up, there's a few that I'm going to mention. Can we go back to your list, Mark?
Yeah. Is there anything in particular?
I find Wolf of Wall Street number one. Look, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But interesting that is your number one. I'd love to hear the story behind that after I go with my list.
Okay.
You definitely cheated. You cheat a lot. You put entire series in your list, which is ridiculous. And there is one that is absolutely missing that I am judging you for. But we will get to it.
All right.
We will get to it.
I think I know what it is, but okay.
I'm sure you do, because you'll see my list and then you'll know. So I'm going to go through my list, and I have a few statistics for you all before I share my list. Number one, I must have loved 2014. Which is funny enough, the year before I got married. I probably had a lot more time to watch movies. 6 of my 20 movies came out of 2014, more than any other year.
Wow.
Every year is represented from 2010 to 2019, except for 2013. I don't have any 2013 movies in there.
Wasn't a good year for you.
It was not. Right? And funny that your number one movie came out in 2013. And then last but not least, I gave myself a rule, which was that I could only have no more than 10 superhero movies. So half my list could not be more than superhero movies. So funny enough, even though I gave myself that rule, I only had 9 of my 20 be superhero movies. So we're going to jump into it.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. And I started with number 20. Unlike some others who started with 21, not following the rules. 20, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
19, Raid 2. 18, Bridesmaids. 17, Toy Story 3. 16, It Follows. 15, Wonder Woman. 14, The Lego Movie. 13, Logan. 12, Scott Pilgrim. I'm laughing because Mark had it in the exact same spot. Yeah.
That's so funny.
11, Rogue One. 10, The Dark Knight Rises. 9, Django. 8, Selma. 7, Avengers, the Avengers number 1. 6, Creed. 5, Winter Soldier. 4, Get Out. 3, Black Panther. Number 2, which is again the same as Mark, Into the Spider-Verse. And then number 1 is the only time I cheated, which is Infinity War and Endgame. Mm-hmm. So that is my list.
Man, I'm really Rogue One.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Did you even have Rogue One listed on any of your stuff?
No, man. I think just because this week has been like hectic for me.
Yeah.
It has not been the best of weeks. I've had to move. I had to move into my new place the day before Christmas Eve, and then my daughter, she's got pneumonia. She developed that through like Christmas, and it's been a busy work week. So like I like literally finished this list before we started.
Like right before we press play,
but
or press record.
I'm so blown. I didn't even think about Rogue One. I'm so blown. I don't know why. And I just watched Rogue One. I literally just watched it like a couple days ago.
I think we talked about Rogue One the last episode, but I have to say this now that it's on the list. As you noticed, it is the only Star Wars movie on my list, and it's number 11. Like I say all that to say, Rogue One, outside of the original trilogies, is my number one favorite Star Wars movie. Like I love Rogue One. It is such a good movie. So that's why it's on my list.
So to defend myself with Force Awakens, I guess the reason why I chose Force Awakens over like Rogue One or Last Jedi is because the way I felt when I saw it and when I left, it was just like, man, Star Wars is back. It felt like being a kid again. It captured this. That movie had a lot on its shoulders, and it did not disappoint. A lot of people say like, oh, it was like, Return to Form, Death Star. Yeah, but like, man, just the world.
It made you feel like you were watching Star Wars.
Exactly,
again.
The new character,
and you can't it's hard to explain that in words. Yeah. Like it made you feel like you were watching Star Wars.
And I loved like Poe, Rey, and Finn. Like
great characters.
I love them. Like Finn has nothing to do in any movie, but he's still like a nice character.
Nothing to do.
He has nothing to do.
He holds a lightsaber a few times.
Yeah. He literally has nothing to do in any movie. But like they're all very charming characters. It brought you back to Star Wars in a way that like we were hoping the prequels would have brought it. Yeah. So yeah, like, and I just had to choose that on the list because like the way I just felt being a huge Star Wars fan, going into that movie with the hope that I had for it and not being disappointed. That's why I ranked it so high.
We're not judging you. So do you want to mention any of the other things on my list before we jump into our honorable mentions?
Yes. Can I look at your
list? I'll turn it over to you.
So I really wanted to put Creed on this list. I almost put Creed on this list because of its soundtrack alone.
Ah, yes.
Yes. But just like with everything.
Q Meek Mill.
Yeah, Q Meek Mill. But everything, like I said, I really went with what moved me and what when I left these movies, it left something in me. And Creed did, but like I just couldn't. Honestly, if I had to redo my list, I'd probably take off It Follows and VH1 and put on Creed.
VHS.
Yes. To put on Creed. Django, dog, I have no Quentin Tarantino, but I have a Quentin Tarantino in my honorable mentions. Only thing about Django, dog, like, I love it. Jamie Foxx kills it. That movie leaves like a bad taste in my mouth for two reasons. One, the part was supposed to be Will Smith, and I could never get that out of my head. I'm like, dang, Will Smith would have killed this. He would have killed this movie.
Killed it.
He would have crushed it.
Yeah, you have to. If you don't let that go, it's kind of hard to take anything.
Like every time Jamie Foxx is probably one of the most talented people on this planet. Every time I watch Django, I'm like, Will Smith could have crushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard. You have to. That's why I encourage any of you. The first time you watch Django, if you knew that, you were distracted. Yeah. Because the whole time you're listening, you're watching Jamie Foxx, you're like, man, if Will was doing this right now, like Will would have, if Will was doing this, you say it about 10 times.
Yeah.
Watch Django again. Like, seriously, if you only watch Django once or twice, watch it again without that distraction, and you're like, man, this is a really good movie. You probably already feel that way, but like the distraction of like not having Will Smith be Django it is paralyzing.
Let me see. I'm trying to see if there's any. The Lego Movie. I really wanted to put that on my list.
Yeah.
I really wanted to put Logan on my list. Dog, when it came to like Toy Story 3, Inside Out, and Coco, I could not make a decision, so none of them made the list.
Wow.
I couldn't make a decision.
So I didn't watch Inside Out, but I've heard good things. But Coco, great movie. I clearly picked Toy Story 3 over it. And the only reason I did was because that last scene when they're all about to die in the fire.
It got real.
I don't think an animated movie at that point had ever made me feel that emotional because, like, I know them. Like, I know Woody. I've known Woody almost half my life. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is it. This is how the story ends. And I was just like, okay, like it was sadness, but like I'm growing up. This is how my friends die.
That was an amazing moment because we all really like. You see these movies, you're like, okay, the status quo is gonna be at the end. They're gonna make it out. Yo, everyone really thought, they're like, are they really about to kill these boys? Are they? Yes. Like at first, because I was like, oh, they'll get, and then the camera just lingers, and then they start. The moment that got me is when I think it's like Bullseye's like, he's like, I can get out, and Jesse's like, no,
yes.
And she just, I'm like, yo, they're gonna die.
That messed me up. That horse.
They're gonna die.
Bro, so I watched it again because Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I watched it again. Shamel, because I was like, baby, you ain't seen Toy Story 3? You gotta watch Toy Story 3. So we sat down halfway through. She's like, I'm going to bed. And I was like, okay. And I sat there like a whole nother hour and watched it. Finished it. I was like, still good.
So that was, that's a good pick.
Any other things you want to discuss? Because we're going to talk more about it, but we're just going into any quick things to know on the list.
Sadly, I have not seen Selma, so I couldn't like put it on my list.
Okay, well, that's the reason why your card is not revoked. You are still a member of the Black Person.
Hey, I got Get Out on there.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, good job.
Mark. I got. So I do. Do you want to talk about honorable mentions?
Yeah, like now we should mention our honorable mentions. So you name some of the movies that are on my honorable mention.
Some of my movies are on your honorable.
My honorable mention,
like what?
Okay, so my honorable mention list. I didn't put this in ranking order, but Babadook.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's another one of those Netflix horror movies that I love. Inception, Gone Girl, Unbroken, Ex Machina. There's a good friend of ours who's like throwing a fit right now that we don't have this.
That's on my, I got that on my honorable mentions.
Yeah, one of our good friends, our mutual friends, our homie. That's probably his number one. He's probably throwing a fit that we didn't rank it. Of course, Mad Max Fury Road, Straight Outta Compton, Deadpool, Dear White People, Attack the Block, and actually Queen and Slim, which I just watched. I really liked it. It's a, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's polarizing, and I think it's all the right reasons for why it's polarizing.
I heard the same thing. I heard it's polarizing. It's either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. Mm-hmm. I heard the dude who plays the uncle kills it.
Oh yeah, he did kill it.
Who's that actor again?
That's the brother. He was the Shocker in the first Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I heard he killed it. What was another honorable you had? Yeah, Straight Outta Compton, man. Like, I think I made this list at a bad time because I'm surprised Straight Outta Compton wasn't on one of my honorable mentions. One of my honorable mentions, and I couldn't put it on the list because I hate black torture porn, but it just when I was done watching, I was like, damn, it was 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah. Just
the acting alone in that movie is just like, wow, like what? You know, like it's
no one didn't act well. Everyone acted well.
You just feel exhausted after watching that movie. But like I'm not I can only have so much black torture porn in my life.
Agreed.
I guess of a couple of my honorable mentions, I got on here. I got Logan, Inside Out, Coco, Toy Story 3, Fast 5, because that was the one that like set it in motion.
That's when it got real.
That's when it got real.
Was that The Rock's first one?
Yeah, that was The Rock's first Fast Furious movie. Captain America: Civil War, which like really like irked me. I couldn't put on my list. There was like first Spider-Man in the MCU, just the first kind of like hint at what we would get with Endgame. But just at the end of the day, I felt like Avengers and Guardians meant more to me. Green Room, have you ever seen Green Room?
No, what's it about?
Dog, okay. I highly recommend it. It's a little, if you like intense movies, intense thrillers, Patrick Stewart's in it actually. It's about this band who they go to do a concert at a bar in, I think, Portland, Oregon. And it turns out the bar they're performing at is kind of like a Nazi bar. and I don't want to give out too much, but like it just goes kind of like haywire after that. And it's a nice thriller. It's a fun movie. I highly recommend it. The rest of my honorable mentions: Skyfall, The Raid, Hateful Eight. When I go back to those Quentin movies, I really dig Hateful Eight.
I haven't seen it.
I like it better than Django and Bastards. I need to check it out. I really like it. Ex Machina, The Last Jedi, It Chapter 1, The Muppets, because that was the first movie me and my wife saw together. Game Night, because I feel like that movie came out of nowhere.
I didn't watch that either.
Funny as heck, man. I'm gonna say funnier than Bridesmaids.
Oh, funny. Okay, yeah. You're probably lying, but go ahead, please continue.
I, Tonya, A Quiet Place, Birdman,
yeah, that was a very good movie.
Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise movie.
I'm going to admit this. I have not seen Edge of Tomorrow, or was it Die Repeat? Live Die Repeat.
Because when it first came out, it was called like Edge of Tomorrow, and then then they changed it for like on demand to like Live Die Repeat or something like that. Yeah. But it is one of the best sci-fi movies no one has seen. It's so good.
I have only heard good things about this movie.
It's so
good.
But
I haven't had the time to watch it.
Tom Cruise is great in it. The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro.
No, I'm not watching that.
Do you like his movies?
I do.
I think you should watch it.
I'm not watching it.
If you like his style, you'll love this movie. I was doing something and it was on HBO, and I left it on and I finished it and I fell in love with it. It's got a lot of interesting pieces to it.
Mark,
core.
Can I say this now? You're not going to convince me to watch Shape of Water, but
fine, fuck it.
Good to know.
Fuck it. And then I got Dunkirk and American Honey. You happy?
I am. Thank you. All right, so we went over our list. We talked about our honorable mentions. Going back to our list and our ranking order, just to mention some of the ones that we have in common. We both had Guardians of the Galaxy. We both had It Follows. Both had Scott Pilgrim. We both had Avengers. We both had Get Out. We both had Black Panther. And we both had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. My number one was two Avengers movies, but I think since you listed all the Avengers movies except for number 2, then it counts as you mentioned it as well. Any of this list, I think we can like kind of just breeze through some of these. Like Guardians, some people consider it our generation's like Star Wars, like just a straight up good movie.
Yeah, I picked it for a couple reasons. Like it's probably the Guardians movies are probably my favorite standalone like Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Dog, it was the biggest flex by the MCU.
No one thought these movies were gonna be good.
That's when the MCU like became like the flex machine that they are, because they're like, hey, this movie has a raccoon in it and a talking tree. Come see it.
They pretty much were like after Guardians came out, and I don't even remember why I went to go see Guardians. I think I was just like, you know what? I think they did a good job. Let me go check this out. I think they probably could have done a good job. After you make a movie like Guardians, then you get away with making an Ant-Man. And people are like, yeah, I'll watch Ant-Man.
Yeah.
You get away with like attempting to make a Doctor Strange movie, which before Doctor Strange came out, y'all, this was like asinine to think that a Doctor Strange movie could actually work because Doctor Strange is such a complex character. Yeah. But you're like, yeah, we'll give you the money to make a Doctor Strange movie.
No, they took a risk on a property that not many. It was a deep cut property,
super deep cut.
And they're like, well, we're gonna throw a lot of money behind this, and we're gonna throw it into our lineup, and people loved it.
Yeah,
and like I see Groot and Rocket and Drax on like kids' t-shirts all the time now.
Yeah,
all the time.
We have a night Groot book that we read every night to end. Next, It Follows. Mm-hmm. We both had this. I think you had it 15. I had it 16.
Yeah.
So we had it around the same place. It Follows. It's just like a really smart, really good, like horror movie. Like it's one of the movies I'm going to show my son. Mm-hmm. Probably around the time he hits puberty, because I'm like, hey son, yeah. So there's A's, and then there's all these that you could get a woman pregnant, but like, guess what? There's also this demon STD that can have us watch this movie real quick.
That's the thing It Follows does is what all good sci-fi and horror does. It's an allegory for something, right? Let's say District 9. District 9 is an allegory for the apartheid.
Yeah.
You know, so it tells you something, but it's also entertaining at the same time. But like It Follows is just so fresh. You know, it's just like, and here's the thing, like on the Slash Filmcast podcast that I listen to, there's this one member, and he says when it comes to sci-fi, fantasy, or horror, there's one thing that makes your movies like you got to explain the rules. What are the rules of this world? How do they work? How can I beat the monster? How can the monster get me?
Yes.
And It Follows just does that in such a good way.
Yes.
Such a threatening, like a constant. Here's the best thing about It Follows, because the threat is always there, even when you're chilling.
Yes.
Even when you're chilling, because you're like, yo, what the hell is that?
Yeah. You can never tell if it's actually following.
You can never tell. How many times have you watched it, by the way?
Oh man, 5. Like 4 or 5 times.
Every time you watch it, like, there's in the scene, I forget the main character's name, but like the monster could be in the frame.
Yes.
And that's like the most brilliant thing about the movie. What's your take on like the different people that show up? And
so I'm glad you asked that question, because I think the beautiful thing about this movie is that it makes you ask so many different kind of character or different kind of questions about the movie. One is, what is the meaning behind those characters? They don't answer it, but like it's a question that comes up. The other one is, how would you beat the monster? Which is like one of my favorite conversations.
I watch so many YouTube videos on how to beat the
so that is like a favorite conversation. It's like, how do you beat the monster? But I think the characters, it's all related to like sexual trauma. But yeah, okay, we can go way more into It Follows.
Clearly, we have to do an It Follows episode.
Such a good movie. All right, next, I think both our number 12s is Scott Pilgrim. Now, Mark, you know how much I love Scott Pilgrim. I think if there's any movie I've seen the most in these past 10 years, it has been Scott Pilgrim. I literally stop everything I'm doing anytime it's on, and I watch the whole movie. I love Scott Pilgrim. I literally have a collection of all the comic books that Mark gave me.
There you go.
But I will say this: I have all the digital copies that I read before you gave me the physical copies. So I have read the comic books, about like the entire series of comic books, maybe 4 times at this point. It's like something I do like every other year.
Yeah, you know what's funny? We saw this movie together.
We did.
We saw this movie together, and I remember. I remember you and I went to go see this movie, and I don't know why I wanted to see. Did you know what Scott Pilgrim was before we saw the movie?
No, I just saw it based off of a commercial.
So I saw a commercial too, and I'm like, this looks kind of interesting, and I was like, hey man, you want to go see this Scott Pilgrim? You're like, yeah. And I remember we were sitting down in there, and we hear the 8-bit Universal. Yeah. And we're like, oh, okay. And then like it opens up and like Scott Pilgrim, blah, blah, blah. And then when Sex Bomb starts playing the 1, 2, 3.
Lemonade stasis, mama serpentine. I got a breathalyzer.
And we're like, yo, it's about to be a ride, dog. It is about to be a ride. Are you good? I'm good. We about to like, we could have looked at each other.
Mark said it like it was just like a feeling. He literally turned to me and was like, it's about to be a ride.
It's about to be on.
As I'm feeling that. He's like,
I don't think I've ever. I bet there's probably one moment where like we've been in a movie, but I can't think of anywhere where, like we looked at each other like, yo, we about to have a good time.
The first Transformers.
Yeah.
I remember the first when Transformers came out and we first saw them, we're like, oh yeah, it's about to be good.
But no, man, Scott Pilgrim, it's same man. It's a franchise I find myself going back to. I've had to talk myself out of not buying the the color editions
Yeah,
of the
you
books.
did.
Yeah, oh, man, I feel like every year I have to talk myself out of not buying those. But
Why is there not a Scott Pilgrim TV show? Like this is a universe that should be like further delved into. Like it's such great characters.
Yeah.
Like just great storylines. There's even like the video game was fun. Like
so I think there's some legal aspects because the video game is no longer on Xbox Live.
oh wow.
And it has to deal with like licensing and Universal. And I forgot who made the game. If you're lucky enough to play the game, it was great. It really resembled playing like a Super Nintendo 16-bit video game.
I was trash at it. Mark was amazing. Mark and our mutual friend were very good at it. I was trash at it.
We had fun, man. We played the game all the time. And
literally every weekend.
One thing I'll say about Scott Pilgrim, I think it is the best example of making an adaptation of like some type of comic book or something and keeping in what is important to keep in, but changing or leaving out what slows your story down. I think it does it perfectly. Because when I went back and read the book, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I see why that wouldn't work in the movie. Yeah. I see why they didn't have time for this. Yeah. But they didn't lose the core story at all.
There wasn't one thing I complained about that the movie did that the books had that the movie didn't put in. You know what I'm trying to say? There's only one thing, and we've talked about this, and we'll move off from Scott Pilgrim. This is one of my favorite movies, though. It is one of my favorite movies. The worst casting was Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Like, Michael Cera is nothing like Scott Pilgrim in the comic book. And I'm not saying that as like a jab to Michael Cera. Like, that's how great of casting they did.
Yeah.
Like, everyone literally played. They
point.
looked like and they acted like the characters in the book. I get why you have to have Michael Cera. He was like huge in 2010 or whenever it came out. 2010. He was huge. Then you kind of was like, yo, if we're going to sell this movie, we got to have like a Michael Cera. He was, it's funny enough, if you look at the movie now, he was the biggest star in that movie.
He was.
And now everyone else is like huge stars now.
Outshined him completely.
Yeah. Next is all the Avenger movies. Mm-hmm. So I specifically put Infinity War and Endgame, and this is one of the rules I gave myself was like, how did I feel watching this? And Infinity War, like, they straight up did an Empire Strikes Back. Like, they did the superhero version of Empire Strikes Back, and they got me. Like, I knew exactly what they were doing, and they still got me, and I loved it. And then one of my frat brothers, one of my good friends, Dorian, we were talking about Endgame. We were talking about like, where is it rank? And I'm like, yo, it's still no Dark Knight. Like, it's like, it's still no Dark Knight.
our scale for all movies forever now.
I was like, it's a beautiful movie. It's Dark Knight. And his argument was, because I mean, at the time, mind you, he said this like a week after a week after Endgame came out. So like, I'm gonna chop it up to emotional because I'm pretty sure he still likes Dark Knight more. But he said, yo, what movie? I never cried that many times during a superhero movie. Like, he's like, I legit cried 4 times. Like, I cried 5 times. He's like, I laughed, I cried, I was happy, I was sad. I went through all the emotions, like, in a very strong way, watching this superhero movie. Mm-hmm. This is the greatest superhero movie of all time. So I don't necessarily agree. I still think The Dark Knight is, but he was right about like how I was able to feel all these strong and amazing feelings from watching Endgame, which is why it's my number 1.
I completely agree, and here's why I think Dark Knight is still the best superhero movie. Endgame is the conclusion to 10 years of characters and story.
It's hard to beat that.
And like, you're invested a lot. Dark Knight had us in under 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, that movie did so much, left so much emotional, like, scar tissue in people's heads. And it did it off of the sequel. And tell you the truth, I honestly feel like Dark Knight could be a standalone without Batman Begins. The Infinity War is my number 1 because the way that movie left everyone, like, that movie was such a pop culture staple. There were so many dusting memes. So many Snapchat memes. I remember when Thanos snapped. I remember watching that movie, and I remember hearing like gasps, like straight up people like, like people were like, "What is happening right now?"
Yeah.
And Disney sold it, and you know, as a comic book like reader and fan, it's not always about the deaths. It's like how the characters react to the deaths. But like the way they left Infinity War, they didn't leave it with no like. Even Empire ends with like, we're gonna go find Han, and you know, don't worry, Luke, me and Chewie are gonna find Han. You know, it kind of has some hopefulness to it. Infinity War was like, no, Thanos won. That's it. Go home, everybody. And like to just have the balls to do that and not have any like, there's something else coming,
bruh. And you sit and wait for all the credits to come by, and you're like, please give me something I can go home to. And they kill Nick Fury. They kill the one dude that you're like, at least he might find something out of this. Yeah. They kill Nick Fury.
And that's why, you know, but I agree with everything you both said about Endgame. Like, I don't think I've cried in a superhero movie like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm with you.
And so the other one is, of course, Avengers, the first Avengers. And I think it's worth mentioning the first Avengers because at the time, if y'all remember this, it was a while ago, but if y'all remember this, we didn't think they could pull it off.
No.
And not only did they pull it off, it's one of the best superhero movies ever. And like, this was okay, well, here's a great way to throw this out there. When's the last time you saw a good superhero combo movie look good that wasn't in Marvel? I'll wait. I will wait. So, and it started because of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Right? And like, they're the only ones who have been able to do it well. And we're going to see attempts for this going forward for years because they pulled it off.
We left Iron Man 1 like, are they really going to try to do the Avengers? Nah. That's it. We'll just get a couple more Iron Man movies and we'll call it a day. People thought it could not be done. And they did it. And they did it great. Like, I remember, like, I didn't cry, but the scene where they first come together as the Avengers and that theme song and the 360 like
the Michael Bay,
the Michael Bay, like, dun, and they're all like, and then dog, you know, Hulk smash, like such a great moment, such a great moment. But love or hate Marvel, they left their staple in pop culture, and you gotta respect it.
We got 3 more movies to discuss. Funny enough, all the main characters of these 3 movies are black. We were their target audience for these 3. Number 1 is Get Out. Not number 1. The next one up that we're going to discuss is Get Out. Get Out was my number 4. It was your number 4.
Yeah.
Get Out. I mean, what's not to say about Get Out that hasn't been said already?
Yeah.
Smart thriller, smart horror movie. Daniel Kaluuya is going to be in our lives forever now because of this movie.
The Sunken Place is it's like, you know how after Cash Money Bling Bling was in Webster's, The Sunken Place is like in everyone's language now.
Yes, everyone knows what The Sunken Place is.
They know what it is. They know what you're talking about, and that's a staple of like a great movie.
And I think there's no one who likes Get Out more than Lil Rel because his comedic career went from like 5 to like 2000 because of this movie. So shout out to Lil Rel.
Yeah, Get Out, it's one of those movies that you are rewarded more on your rewatch. It gets better the more you watch it. There's so many like little, like the whole thing with the cop.
Yeah.
It's not to protect him. She doesn't want any like record. It's just such a smart movie, a smart thriller.
And Daniel Kaluuya can act, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think part of the reason this movie was so good is because he's such a good actor. He sold it.
A lot of it. The supporting cast is great. And here's the thing I love about Get Out, and it spoke to moments I had in my life. It's not just about racism. It's about these groups of white liberal people who don't realize I don't like this word, but they're causing microaggressions and that they're racist, but they think because they voted for Barack it's like, nah, dog, everything you're saying is fucked up and it's racist, and you think because you're my ally, you're immune.
Yeah, it's a microcosm of all of New England.
Yeah.
Funny enough, it was set in New England. But yes, it's Boston. This movie should have been called Boston or Get Out of Boston.
You know, and there's so many, and then like what a it's because it's so easy to just paint this picture of like the racist bad people, the racist bad guys. I feel like a lot of those characters in that movie, they straight up like black people. They straight up really like black people. They're just appropriating to the next level, though.
Yeah, Get Out's a great movie. All right, number 3 for me, Black Panther. What's Black Panther for you?
Number 7.
If you are a black nerd, you've probably been waiting for this movie your entire life. I watched Black Panther. There isn't a lot of movies I'll watch in theater multiple times. I watched Black Panther in theaters 3 times. Like I don't look, y'all. I may have a little bit more money now, but I grew up, I ain't had the money like that. I ain't gonna watch a movie 3 times in the movie theater, but I had to. Yeah. Because I was like, I've waited my entire life for this. Plus I'm African. Like I've waited my entire life for Black Panther, and they killed it. They killed it. So it's needless to say, it's my favorite Marvel movie of all time. I don't think it's the best one. But it is by far my favorite Marvel movie.
I feel like the same way, but it's funny. I really wasn't into Marvel, like as we discussed. I was a DC head. Besides Spider-Man and some of the X-Men, I kind of didn't care what was going on in Marvel. So for me, I didn't know nothing about Black Panther. I always thought it was kind of like dorky, to be honest. I thought it was like this gimmick. I'm like, word? His name is Black Panther, and he's from Africa, and he's a black... Like, I was like, really, Marvel? Yeah. And so I just saw him as like this dude...
This gimmick.
This ninja cat dude in Africa who... chilled with the Avengers. I knew like literally nothing about him other than I think him and Storm smashed a couple times.
Yeah, the most important thing to know about Black Panther is that he bagged Storm. Like, let's keep it 100.
Yeah, and so for real, Civil War was like my first really like real introduction to T'Challa and Wakanda, and I was like, dog, this character. Before I even knew he was in this movie, I was like, yo, that Black Panther was killing it in the movie. That running after
Winter Soldier
Bucky scene, like, I was like, yo, this dude is killing it. And since then, he has become one of my favorite characters in anything. Yeah. Like, he has had some of the best lines and moments in the MCU.
Yes.
That Bucky one, the Infinity War Battle of Wakanda, him and Cap leading
that running scene.
Dog, like I can't wait for Black Panther 2. I was a huge Ryan Coogler fan because of Creed. Yep. So I was really excited to see what he would bring to like a superhero movie, and just what this movie did for like young black kids.
Yeah,
and what it did for Africa, and because like. They always want to paint this picture. Like, dog, Africa is, like, booming. You go to Ghana, they're killing it right now.
Yep.
But, like, it just showed, like, this pride and this independence that, like, African nations have and can have. And, like, I love the dog. The Black Panther, I agree with you. I don't think it's the best MCU movie. It's one of my favorites. It's one movie where, like, I just appreciate so many other things than the action and the acting. The costumes, the world of Wakanda, just like the culture of Wakanda. Like I could seriously watch like a virtual tour of Wakanda, and I could watch like whoever did the costume designs. I think she won an Oscar.
She did win an Oscar.
Like just going through, this is why the Wakandans wear this, and this is what, like I could watch that for hours. It's so good.
So I'll say 2 things. And then because this will not be a Black Panther podcast.
I want to wow it. Get out.
One, Black Panther didn't come on my radar as like someone I should look into until he got Storm. Because I have said this once and I have said this again. Storm is the greatest black superhero of all time.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's the only competition she got is her husband. The only competition she got is her husband. Like Storm is the greatest black superhero of all time. And when Black Panther got Storm, I was like, hold up. Like, who is this dude? Like, of course, I had the same perception as Black Panther as you did until then. And then I started to read his comic books. I strongly encourage all of you to read the Christopher Priest run of Black Panther. Those are my favorites out of all the other ones, including Ta-Nehisi Coates ones. Like the Christopher Priest run, I think really gives you like an appreciation of like Wakanda. Because I think the dopeness is like Black Panther. Yes, he's a superhero, but he's before anything the king of like the most badass country in the world.
Yeah.
And like that explores why Wakanda is such a badass country.
And then one thing I can't believe we haven't even talked about. One reason why this movie works so well, Killmonger.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Probably
Absolutely.
besides Thanos, the best MCU villain ever.
Yeah, yeah,
And like to the point, I was like, he's kind of right.
yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
It's one that his logic is sound, and two, like the brother just has like the second best lines out of the MCU.
Yeah.
Like Thanos, I'll give it to Thanos. Thanos has the best lines.
This gives me great pleasure.
Like Thanos has the best lines. Part of the reason I love Thanos is like his lines, but like Killmonger is right up there.
Yeah. And
so,
like the whole, I'm telling you, man, up until the end, I'm like, besides killing everybody,
if he wasn't so angry,
I'm like, I'm kind of listening to this guy.
if he was just a tad less angry,
yeah,
tad less violent, we'd be like, yeah, you should give this brother a chance.
give him a shot.
And then the last movie that we have, both of our number 2s, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This was our second episode of Pop Culture Parenting, so we're not going to jump into it. But like, one, check out our number 2 episode if you haven't listened to it already. So you can hear us rant and rave about the dopeness that is Into the Spider-Verse. But clearly this movie meant a lot to us. What I'll say right now, to Black Panther and Into the Spider-Verse, there's only 2 movies. My son is a 2-year-old little boy. There's only 2 movies he will sit through. Black Panther and Into the Spider-Verse. My son has Black Panther everything. He loves Black Panther everything. And the only other thing that like started to creep on his fascination with Black Panther was Spider-Man. And I give full credit. Well, actually, I'll give partial credit to my wife because she likes Spider-Man and Into the Spider-Verse. Like this, I knew the minute I saw this movie, I was like, Spider-Man's about to be Ian's favorite superhero. Because I knew this movie was that good, that it was going to change everything about my kid's life when it comes to like superheroes. I was like, man, he's going to grow up. This is one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. And he's going to grow up right around the time where he's going to see it all the time. So I already, yes, needless to say.
No, man, Spider-Man is probably my favorite superhero. And
what you mean probably?
I mean,
Mark, who's your favorite superhero?
Nah, he is. Yeah. When Miles came out, I bought the comic because I was like, oh, this is a pivotal moment, Black Spider-Man. But I really didn't know too much about Miles. I just knew that people fucked with him. Man, this movie, it is like the ultimate love letter to all Spider-Man fans. And it just takes so many risks. And it's made by people who care. And that's like what makes it so good. It's made by people who care. And it just takes so many chances. And it looks like, dog, like everything about this movie is dope. It looks good. The characters are good. The acting's good. The soundtrack's amazing. Like just pick one thing and you'll be entertained. I'm excited for the next sequel. I think it's 2022.
Hold on, they announced it?
Yeah, the dude who played Miles announced it on his Twitter. I'm pretty sure. I think it's 2022.
How is this not national news? How did I miss this? When did this we'll talk about it later.
But I'm ready for the next one. It's being teased that Scarlet Spider will probably be in this next one.
Good. Exactly what we wanted. Because we were like, dopest outfit.
Yeah. But yeah, what else can we say that we didn't say in that episode? Love this movie. Always find myself going back to it. My daughter will also sit through Into the Spider-Verse. He has a staple place in our home. He ain't got nothing on Moana though. Moana, Moana and Maui run my house. My daughter over Elmo. Dog, my daughter's like, Moana, make way.
Oh my goodness.
Like, I'll be like, thank you. She'll be like, you're welcome.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is so adorable.
So Moana, like that runs the household now, but she does love this movie.
Awesome. So before we end the show, Mark, we got to hear why number 1 is Wolf of Wall Street on your list.
So Wolf of Wall Street is my number 1 because it's one movie that when I was done watching it, I restarted it and watched it again. I wanted to see it in the movie theater, For some reason, I don't know, I never got a chance to see it. This movie solely exists off the acting of Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yep.
Like, it is pretty much them acting the hell out of acting for 2.5 hours, and it's amazing the whole way through. Leo should have got the Oscar for this movie.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Like, it should have been this movie.
I don't even know who won it that year.
I don't know, probably some Green Book type shit, but this movie probably made Leonardo DiCaprio, if not my favorite actor, and it solely showed everyone that he is probably one of, if not the greatest living actor on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Like,
this, to me, not to interrupt you, but to me, after Wolf of Wall Street, I was like, all right, I'll put you in the same sentence as Denzel.
yeah.
That's like, before I would not.
Yeah.
But like after that, I was like, all right, now I have to.
The scene when he's getting kicked out of his company and he's like, I'm not fucking leaving.
Yeah.
That whole like it feels like 10, 20 minutes is just him acting the shit out of acting. And it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. And it's just like no music, just Leo intense and a mic. If you have not seen Wolf of Wall Street, if you're a Martin Scorsese fan, see it. But like when I left this movie, I was just like, wow. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's definitely, if I catch it on TV, no matter where it's at, I'm watching the rest of it. And that's why it's my number one of the decade.
And it got Margot Robbie the job to be Harley Quinn. And so now she'll be Harley Quinn for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Any other things you want to touch upon before we wrap it up? And so you all know, we have, if you haven't seen this already, we will have our list in the show notes. So you'll be able to see my list and Mark's list. So you'll be able to argue with it, agree with it. Please feel free to write us in and let us know your thoughts.
So I'll make it real quick. These are just things on my list that like I think people should see. Or Whiplash. I think it's a great movie. It's a great movie about what does it take to be the best and how far you should push people. Go see it.
I'm sure everyone's probably seen a scene or two from Whiplash.
You probably
just
have.
because like
I think
some great acting going on in there.
I think Whiplash has one of the best endings of any movie of all time.
Wow.
One of the best.
Okay.
Minding the Gap is this documentary I saw that just really hit home in life. It's about like growing up, your friends. It touches on race. It touches on like abuse in relationships. It's just like, I think, especially people our age, I think you should watch it. It's a documentary. This kid made it over 10 years, following his friends who skateboard. As a parent, Arrival really got to me, and it really I put myself in that character's position, and I think I would do the same thing. I don't know if I want to spoil Arrival but it's basically, if you knew something was going to end in tragedy, would you still go through with it knowing what you know? And I think a lot of people would make the same decision that character made in that movie. Inception, come on, man. Inception, you don't...
Well, Inception made my honorable mention.
But, it didn't make your list at all. What?
Inception didn't make my list, brother.
Just, why didn't you put it on your list?
I didn't put Inception on my list because when I made my list, I literally said in each of these categories, this is one of the greatest movies I've seen in each of these categories. Like, Bridesmaids is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Inception is a great movie. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't rank it as one of the great whatever movies they are. I wouldn't, if we're talking if Christopher Nolan is a specific category, then it's number 3 on my list. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's I couldn't place it, but do I love Inception? Of course I love Inception. It's a great movie.
I think it just changed movies. So many movies copycatted Inception. Even from its trailer. We got the womp forever now in every trailer.
All Christopher Nolan movies.
All movies all are womp. But quick thing about Inception or Christopher Nolan that I heard, he is the rich man's Michael Bay. He is. He's the rich man's Michael Bay.
God, he is.
He makes
these. He is. Oh, I hate how simple they made that.
He's the rich. He makes these mass appealing, smart thriller action movies.
He's the rich man's Michael Bay.
He's the rich man's Michael Bay.
Alrighty, y'all. So that was our list of our top 20 movies of the 2010s.
Yep. Let us know. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you think it's trash? What is not on there that you think we should have watched? And yeah.
So thanks everyone for listening. Just like we mentioned, we'll have 1 or 2 episodes coming out every month. You can find us on all social media at PopCultParent. Please email us at popcultparent@gmail.com. Please don't forget to rate us, review, and subscribe. And you'll be hearing more from us very, very soon. I believe the next episode will be about one interesting TV show that came out on HBO. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
It's a very good show.
This is the next episode. We're going to do All Bane.
All Bane, the next show.
All right. Don't forget to join the cult, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.